It's 8 in the morning on the 24th of May, 1979. World War III has just broken out. This is the first mission of the Task Force Bravo campaign, part of the British Army of the Rhine module for Combat Mission Cold War. My mission is to delay and eventually defeat the attack of the Soviet 47th Guards Tank Division. In this mission, my task is to delay the Soviet advance by destroying their lead echelon in the vicinity of Remlingen. I expect the Soviet lead echelon to be a battalion acting as an advance guard. A Soviet advance guard is comprised of one reinforced battalion. If it's the advance guard of a motor rifle regiment, this will be a motor rifle battalion reinforced with a tank company. If it's the advance guard of a tank regiment, this will be a tank battalion reinforced with a motor rifle company. In either case, I'm facing a mix of both tanks and infantry mounted on armored vehicles. The difference will be in the ratio of tanks to infantry. I also want to know what kind of tanks I'm facing, likely either T-62s or T-64s, as well as what kind of vehicles the infantry are mounted in, either BTRs or BMPs. Our recce troop encountered a combat reconnaissance patrol consisting of several BTRs and a T-62. A higher ratio of BTRs to tanks in the CRP indicates that we are facing a motor rifle battalion. The composition of the CRP indicates that the enemy infantry are mounted in BTRs and that they are supported by a company of T-62s. I have at my disposal a squadron of 14 of the venerable Chieftain main battle tanks, a platoon of infantry with 30 dismounts, 2 FV-438 swingfires, and 2 strikers, 2 Milan anti-tank guided missile teams, and a forward observer with 1 battery of 105mm artillery and 1 battery of 155mm artillery guns on call. I've set up my tanks in what I hope are advantageous positions on building corners or in keyholes overlooking areas that I expect the Soviets to advance over. Of course, the Soviet army is an artillery army first and a tank army second, and rarely, if ever, conduct an attack without a high volume of artillery support. The large number of nearly simultaneous impacts, combined with the small size of the explosions, tells me that the Soviets are using cluster artillery. So far it hasn't inflicted any casualties beyond one man lightly wounded, but that could easily change. The artillery fire is much lighter and more intermittent than I expected. But before long we start spotting some Soviet vehicles in the distance.
Good shot, well done.
Transport vehicle!
Good shot, well done.
One of the weaknesses of Soviet cluster artillery at this time is that each of the submunitions is so small that my chieftains are able to shrug off even a direct hit. The NATO cluster submunitions each have tiny shape-charged warheads that are capable of punching through the thin top armor of a tank, but the Soviet submunitions are just pure high explosives. Of course, just because the submunitions are incapable of penetrating the chieftain's top armor doesn't mean they aren't still degrading them by damaging optics. If I didn't have a pressing need to keep them in position to destroy the incoming Soviet attack, I should really be pulling my tanks out from under the artillery barrage.
Big bloody tank right now!
Target neutralized.
That one, for instance, did some damage to this tank's targeting, optics, and radio. Up until now, I've only been trading blows with the Vanguard Company of the Soviet Advance Guard. I guessed that the main body would probably be following 15 minutes behind the Vanguard, and timed my own artillery barrage on the Soviet side of the map accordingly.
Enemy transport! Short Sunstream troops! I hope that hurt, you bastards! Right there! Bloody enemy transport! That's it, son. You got it! Bloody tank coming!
That helicopter is really starting to make a nuisance of itself. That one gun run killed the Striker's vehicle commander and knocked out all 4 missile tubes. Fortunately, those rockets don't seem to be able to do much to my tanks beyond some light subsystem damage.
Right there! Bloody enemy transport! Enemy vehicle there! It's fucked! Over there! That's an enemy vehicle! There! Enemies!
As famous as the Chieftain is for its armor, there isn't much it can actually keep out by the 1979 setting of this scenario. A round from a T-62 manages to punch straight through the armor. The tank survived, but the commander and loader did not. This time, this tank was knocked out. On the bright side, most of the crew survived, with only the driver being killed. My casualties are starting to mount. I estimate that I have likely inflicted enough losses on the Soviets to achieve a victory, and I hit the ceasefire button, representing my withdrawal after a successful delaying action. It's a minor victory, which is good enough to proceed to the next mission in the campaign. I've inflicted 153 casualties, knocked out 7 tanks, 33 light armored vehicles, and 2 soft-skin vehicles. I suffered 19 casualties and the loss of 3 tanks and an armored vehicle in return. I've not completely destroyed the advance guard, but it's enough. I hit the leading Soviet elements on the nose, inflicting heavy casualties while suffering few casualties myself. We were able to withdraw intact, and will continue to attrit and delay the Soviet advance until we are strong enough to mount a counterattack.